take all three of those positions. The most competitive race is the redrawn new 5th District, where there is no incumbent. We asked both candidates to join us on this program. Unfortunately, we could not contact or work out a date from former Maury County Mayor Andy Ogles, who's the Republican nominee for this race. We did contact the Democratic candidate, Nashville State Senator Heidi Campbell. She is our guest this week on Inside Politics. Senator Campbell, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we get into the politics of all of this, politics can be a tough business. It's certainly a full-time job when you're running, but you've had a difficult blow for yourself, your family, and particularly for your husband with a cancer diagnosis for him. It's really, I'm sure, made it very difficult for you these past few days.
Well, thank you. Yes. I mean, you know, it's definitely been, it was a blow and it came out of nowhere. As John Lennon once said, it's life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. So, but that having been said, he's doing well and we're going to fight it.
Speaking of making other plans when you're living your life, when you were on this program last was back March 4th. It was right after the legislature had redrawn all the lines for the legislative districts. I had asked you if you planned to run, and I went back and looked just to make sure I understood exactly what you said. You said, well, you'd been asked about it, but you really preferred not to. You didn't mention the other names, but you wanted some other people. You thought some other people ought to do it. Well, nobody else did. So what persuaded you to run?
Well, you know, I mean, they decided not to. I tried to talk them into it, but, you know, somebody needed to run for this because it is a winnable seat.
Did they try to talk you into doing it?
Yes, afterwards. So 2 days before the deadline, because we were close to it then, I decided to jump in, and everyone knows I'm a fighter, so they knew I'd fight for it.
Well, you certainly have picked a heck of a fight. If you look at this district, it's where it voted in the past. If this had been a district in 2020, it would have voted for Donald Trump for president by more than double digits. That certainly would not be an incentive for a Democrat to get into the race. So why did you not just sit out the race?
Well, keep in mind that Phil Bredesen won this district in 2018, and that was, you know, a midterm. So also, you know, we anticipated that Roe might get overturned. We anticipated that Trump might be held accountable for some things, and that possibly the far-right candidate might win the primary. All three of those things have happened. And right after the primary, we pulled this race, and we were ahead by 2 points.
Well, now, Donald Trump first endorsed another Republican candidate in this primary. She got kicked off the ballot by the Republicans for not being Republican enough, at least in Tennessee. He's now endorsed Mayor Ogles. You don't think that endorsement by Donald Trump is going to help Mayor Ogles a lot in that district?
Well, I think, you know, it helps him with the far-right faction, but that's only a certain percentage of the Republican Party in this particular district. So, you know, it's obvious that he is completely baked in with that group of people.
Now, the longtime incumbent in the 5th District is Jim Cooper from here in Nashville. He looked at the 5th District, the new 5th District, and decided, thank you, I'll retire. Did you seek his counsel about this? Did he urge you to run, or did he tell you, look, I couldn't win it, good luck to you?
Oh, Jim's endorsed us, and he's contributed to our campaign, and he's been very supportive.
So what is your strategy to win what would be an improbable upset victory?
We've worked our tails off and reached out to voters and spent a lot of time making our case for why we actually care about the constituents of this particular district. And we've drawn a strong contrast between me and my opponent, which, you know, the wonderful thing is you don't have to listen to our political rhetoric. You can just look at our records. We were both mayors, and you can see from looking at our records what we do. History is a pretty good predictor of what's going to happen.
Obviously, if you're going to win, you're going to maximize the Democratic vote within Davidson County. That's probably the biggest center part of Democratic vote. How does it look? How are you going to do that in Davidson County?
So, I mean, we're already doing that. We're looking at the numbers going up. We had a big, huge burst at the beginning of the early voting with the Republicans, I think, working that, you know, passionate and extreme group of voters out of the system. And now we're starting to see it tick up, and we're getting close to the 42% that we have to reach to win this.
So you think you'll need to get 42% in Davidson County of your vote in order to win? Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
42% of the vote is what we're targeting.
So if we see the early vote come in and you're somewhere in that area, you think you've got a shot?
Yeah, and we're close to somewhere in that area right now.
So the early voting looks pretty good for you at this point. Do you feel pretty
good?
Does. It's over now. I haven't seen the final
number. It didn't
number
initially, but over the course of this past week, it started to move in our favor. And keep in mind that we know, anecdata, which is a word I made up, but you get it, anecdata tells us that there are Republicans Republicans coming over to our side.
You likely need to move to cut into Mayor Ogle's margin in Murray County. That's apparently where he won the nomination, particularly as heavily as he did back in August. How do you see that happening?
So I have spent, initially when this happened, I think, Nashvillians were rightly upset about it, but I have spent a lot of time in this district and fallen in love with it. And Columbia is one of the places that I've fallen in love with that place and spent a lot of time with the people there. And I have a lot of Republicans who are not as extreme as Andy Ogles and did not appreciate the fact that he didn't show up for meetings, the fact that he bought himself a $40,000 SUV and office furniture. Didn't appreciate those sorts of things and wanted a candidate they knew they could trust and somebody who they could get in touch with.
Now, there is a contested race in Murray County to be the mayor of Columbia. There's a Democratic incumbent. I don't know if he runs as a Democrat, but I do understand that Chaz Mulder is the son-in-law of the former Democratic leader in the state house. That would appear he's running against the GOP party chair down there in Murray County. Is that race, because it's heavily contested, likely to bring more Democrats to the polls than you normally see in Murray County?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think it's energizing the vote, but I also think that that the people in Murray County are really excited about the fact that, especially Democrats, that for the first time in their history, they have somebody that they can vote for. So.
Heidi Campbell is our guest. She's a Tennessee State Senator from here in Nashville. She's also the Democratic nominee for the 5th District race in Congress. Back to continue our conversation with the Senator after this break.
This